My mom was always into witchcraft and satanic rituals. Of course, as a young child, I didn't know what the candles, the countless ritual books, and the demonic voices coming from her room meant. She always told me that she was just playing a game and not to come in there and bother her after midnight. She made that very clear. When I was around 8, my mom became different. She was violent and said horrifying things in her sleep, but her voice, God, that voice, it wasn't hers. My mom was very sweet and sensitive towards me. She woke me up every morning by sitting on my bed and stroking my hair, then whispering that breakfast was ready. She always made sure I had everything I needed. But one day, that all changed. She became abusive. She would call me a bitch or tell me that I was a failed abortion, that she never wanted me and she never will. She would spit in my food right in front of me, and when I would question her behavior or get upset, she would hit me or throw things at me. The mother I once loved dearly was gone and she wasn't coming back. A few months after she started acting strange, she vanished. My grandmother, who also lived in the house with us, was the one who found my mom's empty room. At first, we thought nothing of it. Maybe she went to the store or to someone's house. After 3 days passed, we filed a missing persons report, but the trail went cold. Needless to say, I was devastated. Losing your parents at all is hard enough, but more so at such a young age. My dad was never in my life. I was the result of a one-night stand and, for my dad, an affair. Once his wife found out that he had gotten another woman pregnant, they moved out of the state, and I never even got to meet him, much less talk to him. My grandmother became my new mom. I didn't mind this because we've always been extremely close. She ended up putting a lock on my mom's old room. She said it was for my own good. The lock didn't help though, because the door would always open on its own volition around midnight. One night, curiosity got the best of me, and I went into the room. It smelled awful, and everything was strewn about so carelessly, which was out of the ordinary for my OCD, germaphobe mother. I looked around the room to see if I could find anything that would lead to finding her. On her desk, I found books upon books about satanic rituals, how to perform them, and the materials needed. I moved on. Standing on the dresser were blood-red candles, used so much there was barely any wax left at all. Hung from the walls with old rusty nails were pages, some with drawings of creatures, some with writing in another language, which is strange considering my mother only knew English. I finally had the thought to look on the ground, maybe under the bed. After all, that's where I always hid stuff. I immediately regret that decision, for on the ground was a pentagram. It was drawn in what looked like blood, but I was too afraid to find out for sure. Startled, I backed up rather quickly, slamming the nightstand and knocking things down. This alerted and awoke my grandmother, who came in and shooed me out of the room. Then she scolded me for having disobeyed her. After what I saw in my mom's room, I decided to do some research. I went to the school library to see if I could find any books on the subject. Nothing. Probably because most, if not all, of the books in an elementary school library were G-rated. Eventually, I talked my grandmother into getting me a library card from the community library. I knew there had to be something there. Thus, I began my research. She would take me every weekend, but this only lasted about 3 weeks. She eventually caught on to what I was doing, and that was the end of that. After my 9th birthday, things took a turn for the worst. I began seeing entities in my room at night and hearing voices. At first, I tried to ignore it, but my young body couldn't handle so many sleepless nights, wide-eyed with terror. My grandmother began to notice something was wrong and took me to the doctor. I was diagnosed with childhood schizophrenia. They gave me a prescription for antipsychotics and sent me on my way. At first, I thought it helped, but maybe it was just the placebo effect, because the happiness didn't last long before the voices were back to torment me. On a particular dreary night, a very prominent voice came forward.
"You're trying to get rid of me, are you?"
Terrified, I didn't answer. I tried to lay as still as possible. Maybe it would think I was asleep and leave me alone. But it spoke again.
"You know that won't work. Your mother opened the door for me long ago, and without her here to close it, I have free rein. Now that she's been removed, I'd like to offer you something."
The way it said that she was removed sent shivers down my spine. I made a very faint whisper. "What?" The mysterious voice got deeper this time.
"I want you to be my friend."
It would have felt more appropriate if it had used the word victim instead of friend. I finally mustered up the courage to speak after what felt like hours. "What do you mean?" My voice sounded weak. The voice got louder, but not in the sense that it was screaming, more like it was much closer, within a couple feet from my face.
"I want you to be my new friend. Your mother's time had come to an end. Now, I have chosen you."
It took a few seconds to continue the sentence, but it finally broke the silence.
"Your only option is to say yes."
I froze. My heart was racing. All I could get out was, okay. It chuckled.
"Now let's begin your initiation."